I struggled because I loved the Griffith Show. Donald Knotts made America laugh, but he cried. His abusive, alcoholic father held knives to his throat. This trauma tormented him forever. He had terrible panic episodes that kept him from functioning while winning 5 Emmys. Another sad irony was macular degeneration in his final years, lung cancer death. The story of a man who brought millions joy but rarely found it himself. The 1924 Morgantown, West Virginia birth of Don Knotts followed 14 years of his next oldest sibling. His parents hadn't considered having another. His mother was 40, his father struggled to maintain them, and they had lost their land. No money, comfort, or space for a newborn. Don slept on a kitchen cot, while his elder brothers shared a room with strangers who paid rent to keep the family solvent. He had no privacy, only noise, worry, and the chilling reminder that they were barely surviving. Small and sick he was. He wore unfit second-hand clothes. He was teased in school. Home life was horrible. William, his father, was mentally sick, alcoholic, and virtually blind. He was angry and unpredictable on the sofa most days. Don had to pass him to enter. Occasionally, his father threatened him with a knife. Don was terrified 24/7. Someone said, "I felt like a loser," unhappy most of the time. He lost his father to illness at 13. Don felt lighter after the tragedy, but fear persisted. His 3 older brothers, nurtured well, became spiteful. They drank heavily, battled regularly, and sometimes raged at Don. He seemed weak and useless. Shadow was an unusual brother. He joked. He mocked. He lit up Don's dismal world slightly. Shadow, Don's lone family member that made him laugh, died of asthma. Without support, Don went inward. He made buddies in his head. He imagined stories. He coped that way. He discovered ventriloquism. He made Danny a dummy and performed at churches, schools, and community events. The boy was 15, not just for pleasure. It was escape. People applauded him for the first time. For him, not his brothers or the dummy. His New York attempt failed. He rejoined West Virginia University at home. World War II led to his 1943 draft at 19. He was mistaken for a Marine drill instructor. It was mythical. Don wasn't combat ready. He was extremely thin and frightened. The Army put him in the 6817th Special Services Battalion to amuse troops, performer in Stars and Gripes military variety performance overseas. He visited between islands to boost morale. He started with Danny Hooch Matador, his dummy. Don started ventriloquism as a child, but after 2 years, something changed. He became irritated. People laughed at the dummy more than him. Despite his act, Danny stole the show. His colleague performer Al Checo saw it. It was tiring for Don to be second to Wood. In 1945, everything changed. Don was returning to the U.S. by ship over the South Pacific. He threw the dummy overboard one night. Don later imagined the mannequin screaming as it sank like it was alive. But he wasn't sorry. It was like cutting a chain. He stopped hiding behind puppets. He'd make folks laugh as himself. Home in January 1946, attended West Virginia University. The GI Bill funded his studies. He developed his characteristic tense, twitchy persona while studying theater and acting in school plays. It was him this time. Dummy-free Don Knotts. People noticed. He met Catherine Metz while studying. She was quiet and contemplative, unlike him. She had another engagement, but Don persisted. He pursued her. Somehow, it worked. It was 1948 when they married. Don earned his theater degree that year. Theater graduate Don Knotts departed West Virginia in 1948 with a $100 loan. His age was 24. His dream was simple: acting. He rode a bus to New York City, hoping his wartime entertainment of troops would help. But New York didn't care. The city devoured him. He repeated radio auditions. They disregarded and rejected him. Directors were confused by a skinny, unsteady Morgantown guy. He married Kay Metz recently? Bills came in, trust fell, he almost quit. But the Army connections that provided him a platform in the conflict saved him. He found work slowly. Though unglamorous, it was something. In 1953, he appeared in Search for Tomorrow, a nationwide soap opera. That changed everything. His character, Wilbur Peterson, was scarred and neurotic, only speaking to his sister. To create Wilbur, Don had to draw from his own childhood, growing up impoverished with a mentally sick father. It was heavy, but he persisted. He appeared in 500 episodes over 2 years. No matter how tired or anxious, he continued. Casting directors took him seriously for that position. He met Andy Griffith on Broadway in No Time for Sergeants. He also had a brief cameo on Howdy Doody, a kids' show watched by millions, in 1954. It clicked there. He played twitchy Tim Tremble. That frantic energy made kids laugh, and adults notice. A ridiculous children's role became a test run for his future fame. He lived nervousness and made it amusing. It was hard behind the camera. Don had severe health anxiety. He always thought he was sick, even though physicians stated otherwise. Waking awake, he thought he was dying. His mind affected his physique, stomach troubles, panic episodes, trembling. It all started with childhood terror. Fear returned, mixed with showbiz tension. Doctors gave him barbiturates and early tranquilizers to settle it. It was the 1950s. That was typical. They were quickly needed just to get through a scene. He did Search for Tomorrow and Howdy Doody simultaneously. Although audiences laughed, he was collapsing. He sometimes forgot lines. He seemed off some days. Directors observed but compromised. He always survived camera time. Off-screen, the medicines dulled his sharpness and made his moods tougher to control. Don Knotts struggled as an actor until 1956. After joining the Steve Allen program, his peculiar character, the jittery, fidgety man, took off. It wasn't a random invention. Don noticed a West Virginia luncheon guest who was shaking so much he spilled water. That sight haunted him. In a dream years later, he remembered. He woke up, scribbled down the routine, and made comedic gold. America recognized him soon. Don appeared on the show from 1956 to 1959. The Tonight Show went to Hollywood in 1959, and Don followed. The character followed. He had another major moment with a future legend. Don appeared in No Time for Sergeants on Broadway in 1955. He met Andy Griffith there. Don was only a side character, but they clicked. Even though they rarely performed together, their chemistry was real. Don had just left the military. He entertained troops as a ventriloquist and comedian in Stars and Gripes throughout the war. He graduated and tried to make it in show industry after the war. Don appeared in No Time for Sergeants in 1958. The actor repeated his stage role with Andy Griffith. He made an impact with his film debut. Box office earnings exceeded $7.6 million, large sum for the period. He and Andy talked often on set. In addition to acting, they discussed thoughts. Don was becoming funnier by being subtle. That notion, being the nervous wreck who thinks he's in charge, stuck with him. It became his trademark. The life-changing call came unexpectedly. It was February 15, 1960. Andy Griffith played a small-town sheriff on Danny Thomas as Don watched TV at home. That was Andy Griffith's pilot. Don immediately called Andy. Nearly 3 years had passed since they spoke. Don asked, shouldn't Sheriff Andy Taylor have a deputy? No agency, no audition, just a wild notion and a cold call. Andy loved it. He invited producer Sheldon Leonard. The end of Don's Steve Allen gig was near. Perfect timing. Within weeks, Don was hired. Barney Fife followed. Barney wasn't just Don pulling his anxious act again, as people imagine. He was transformed by Don. Barney was nervous but not simply terrified. He was noisy, arrogant, and overconfident. He pretended to know everything. In actuality, he knew little. Barney worked because of contrast. The writers first assumed Andy would be hilarious and Don straight. In the second episode, Andy noticed something. He advised the team to have Don be the comedian and me be the straight man. That changed the show. Don poured all into Barney. The way he talked, walked, carried that bullet, argued with Thelma Lou, and annoyed Andy. It was done really carefully. A funny sidekick became one of TV's most famous characters thanks to Don. He captivated audiences and critics. From 1961 to 1963, Don Knotts won 3 consecutive Emmys. He was supporting, yet he was the show's heart. Every detail of his wide eyes, furious voice, and quivering hands when anything went wrong was unforgettable. He made a minor character into a TV classic. Many recall the one-bullet rule. Barney wasn't allowed to load his rifle. Andy made him keep 1 bullet in his shirt pocket. Barney still accidentally shot the ceiling. He looked heartbroken, handed back the gun, and left like a scolded kid every time. That comedy was wordless. It was genuine, physical, timeless. Don always got it right, but Barney wasn't stupid. He considered himself an expert in judo, singing, and American history. He'd act tall and powerful, then crumple when things went wrong. Trying too hard, his singing was terrible, but singing softly with Andy, just the two of them, was wonderful. Don handled the highs and lows well. The shocker followed. Don departed at the top in 1965. He felt the show would cease after 5 seasons since Andy told him. Don signed a Universal film deal. He signed 5 pictures. Andy abruptly changed his mind. Show would go on. Don couldn't return. Already imprisoned. His heart burst. He didn't want to leave, but had to. Show writers planned Barney's exit. Moved to Raleigh. Fans sensed the gap despite a promotion and big metropolitan job. Many thought the series was never the same without him, even though it ran until 1968. Don returned for a couple guest episodes in 1966 and 1967, but his presence brightened the screen again. He returned to Mayberry like nothing had happened, and guess what? Those brief appearances earned him 2 more Emmys. He now had 5. 5 Emmys for 1 role. No other comic supporting actor has done it. In 1986, Don donned the badge one last time. Mayberry Reunion brought the cast together. Older and slower, but still magical. Seeing Barney Fife again was like no time had passed. In 1964, Don Knotts left TV to feature in The Incredible Mr Limpit, a weird film, half cartoon, half real action. He played a shy, fish-obsessed man who became a talking fish and helped the Navy find Nazi submarines. Despite its absurdity, it worked. The film grossed $35.7 million, not a hit. It proved something crucial. Don Knotts could carry a film alone. The same year, Don took a risk. He signed a 5-picture Universal Studios agreement because he thought Andy Griffith was finishing. Andy Griffith continued without him, and the show continued. Don couldn't return. He was committed to the film. That choice started something significant. The 1966 Universal film The Ghost and Mr. Chicken was his first big hit. At least 5 times the cost of $670,000 was earned back. It was 34th at the box office and grossed $100.1 million adjusted. Universal imprisoned him for 5 years after his popularity. From there, Don streaked. He played a height-phobic man drawn into the space program in The Reluctant Astronaut in 1967. The film included NASA video and was released 2 days before the Apollo 1 fire, which overshadowed it. The 1968 version of a Bob Hope comedy, The Shakiest Gun in the West, followed. It worked again. Stable earnings, not huge hits. His Midwest and Southern popularity was high. New York critics rarely noticed him, but small-town audiences always came. Then, Don experimented in 1969. The Love God made him a Hugh Hefner-like provocative magazine publisher. Strange decision. People didn't buy it. The film earned $15.4 million adjusted, a flop. It failed when Don tried to modify his image. He told the Chicago Tribune in 1970 that people's desires baffled him. He felt that repeating his uneasy character was boring spectators. How to Frame a Fig, 1971, was his last Universal picture. It earned $21.6 million adjusted and ranked 86th for the year. The studio terminated the contract after 5 years. Hollywood changed rapidly. Don's clean slapstick approach didn't fit anymore when The Graduate, Easy Rider, and Midnight Cowboy changed the rules. His cinematic career was fading, and he was 47 and unsure what to do next. But there was more. Popular Comedy Three's Company required a new landlord in 1979. Don was brought in by producers as the old ones left for a spin-off. First, the cast was anxious. John Ritter stated Knott's fame made them afraid. It was clear when the cameras started rolling that Don delivered something extraordinary. Ralph Furley, his new role, was loud, showy, and self-centered, especially around women. It was humorous because of it. He thought he was slick, but never quite succeeded. Not just the jokes. He was admired for his appearance. Mr. Furley dressed wild. Colorful outfits, big collars, vivid ascots. It was absolute 1970s crazy. The costumes complemented Don's intensity. He made silly faces, acted like a cartoon, and made people laugh just by entering a room. After Suzanne Summers left in 1981, authors gave Don additional jokes. He played a more major role and continued on the show until 1984. After that, Don remained. He appeared in another sitcom in 1987 as a school principal for the season. As before, he joined Matlock a year later and worked with Andy Griffith. He voiced an animated version of himself in the new Scooby-Doo movies. His 1970 variety show was brief. You may have seen him guest starring on Here's Lucy or The Bill Cosby Show back then. A distinct story lay beneath the comedy. Dark childhood for Don. His father, Jesse, was mentally ill and drank heavily. He sometimes held a knife to young Don's neck and yelled that he would murder him, more than once. After Don was an adult, his mother asked, "Do you remember when you were in diapers and your father held a knife to your throat?" Jesse went to mental hospitals twice.